Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to this program. My name is Wilbert Mukori. Tonight, I would like to follow up on the issue of the eviction of Zimbabweans by the Zanu PF regime. This is a video of by one of the Zimbabwean media reporters. They just listen to it.
Chandodira Zanu ndechekuti inotonyisa nevakaivhotera handi ndimi maiti idhi huchie tsepete. Chionai manje zvaakuitika, maakupazirwa misha, vanhu mazana mana 400 vamiswa pamberi pedare kuChipinge nhasi vachipomerwa mhosva yekuda kurambira pamisha yemadzitateguru avo yave kuda kutorwa nekanzuru. Vanhu ava ndevekwamanyokowere kuChipinge. Chirongwa chekudzingwa kwemasabhuku deals hachisi kutombomira. Let's face it, guys. It's now clear that the masses never voted for ED or Zanu PF. Asi mheni dzakapera suhere kuChipinge mazuvano, dei mambo tumira zvafa. Zanu PF sold this country kumaChina kare, and these same idiots are the ones vari kuiswa pamisha yamuri kubviswa. Zanu haisi kumira ba, pose pari kubviswa vanhu, maChina anobva aiswa otanga kuchera goridhe nekuisa zvimapaipi zvavo mugomo zviya. Kutengesa nyika nekuda twuma-chicken in netwumirinda twavaipiwa. Zanu PF soka, so vanoda kuti vanhu ava vagare pichaizvo. Apa ndo paakutoda kuitwa zvechisimba hondo yeminda manje, nekuti pashata. Hanzi Zanu yakuda kutosvika even kudomboshava. Naimi, chamunotiroyera isu hedu tisina kana chatinacho muchisiya vana ED kuChipinge uko. Ndochishaya ini, honai mabasa ePepsi neChicken in ayo.
Well, to those who do not understand Shona, what she is showing there is some of the people who are being evicted and they're demolishing their homes. And the 3 points she mentioned there is number one, that Zanu PF is being cruel. And number two, that people, Zanu PF rigged the elections, last year's elections. And then go on to further to say that the people voted for Zanu PF. And the fourth point is that most of the land that Zanu PF is evicting people from will be given to the Chinese. Welcome to the program, Benjamin. Any comments on this?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for joining us, to our viewers. What I can say is this is the extent to bad governance that Zanu PF has subjected the country to. Firstly, we should know this is how Zanu PF has always operated, especially given after the elections. Pre-elections, they promised people, individuals, land to say, bring your names forth or bring your family names, then we will allocate you land. Then straight after the elections, once you've done their bidding, you are left, high and dry. So this is always an ongoing thing. Then now what we are facing is, I agree to say, the Chinese now have so much leverage on the Zimbabwean government. We owe them so much. Now they can just, whatever they see on our land or inside our land, they are free to take. So now we practically we do not own anything. So this is almost like state capture. The Chinese have taken over, especially Zimbabwe. That's what I think. Because we are so much in debt with them that we cannot say anything against them.
Yes, I think I totally agree with you. The first point I was going to talk about there personally is that the young lady talks of the Zanu PF rigged the 2023 elections. That point we have made very clear and said it repeatedly. And SADC, the AU, and Zimbabwe's own Human Rights Commission endorsed the same point. They observed the elections and they condemned them. What is annoying about that whole situation is that SADC, although their reports say those elections were rigged, were helpless to step in and do something about it because the people had participated in those elections. And notably, Triple C had gone on to accept those seats that they had won, and thus endorsing that the process was free, fair, and credible. That point cannot be, we cannot run away from. But the second point is that she went on to say the people voted for Zanu PF. This is absolutely ridiculous. You cannot say in one breath that the Zanu PF rigged the elections, and then in the next breath you say the people voted for Zanu PF. The truth of the matter is the people of Zimbabwe did not vote for Zanu PF because those elections were not free, fair, and credible. And what we are seeing here is what we should expect out of a rigged election and a regime that is not accountable to anybody. I totally agree with you when it comes to the Chinese. The Chinese, for those who are not familiar, are the ones who bankrolled the Zanu PF War of Liberation. They supplied them with most of the arms. And it is payback time. And 44 years after independence is still payback time. That is one of the tragedies of Africa. Many African countries were either held by China or Russia. And we got rid of one colonial power only to inherit another one. And in the Chinese, I agree, we are in serious trouble. I don't know whether you had a chance to read what is written in that cartoon, Benjamin.
Yes, I did read part of it. It's basically it's the same, but I would like to believe that those gentlemen there are Chinese that are trying to convince the headmen. Well, this is exactly what I think Zimbabwe has reduced itself to, because most probably people do not realize what we owe China right now in terms of loans from building, from the parliament building. We built it on credit. The airport that we are claiming Zimbabwe has got an airport is still on credit. A lot of things Zimbabwe has built under this second republic, it's all loaned monies. We are borrowing to do things. We are not building anything using our own hard-earned currency that we are taking money from the Reserve Bank. We are borrowing. And where are we borrowing from? We are getting loans from China. How do we pay back? China does not want their money back. China wants mining rights. So this is where you find, if your land has got any ore or any mineral that they deem they want, they can just simply just say, we want this area, and they have to be given. So this is exactly where we are. So if you find some of the land that is going towards mining, it's what we owe the Chinese. And they can take for I don't know how long the agreement is, But I would not speculate because I don't have facts on that. But what I have facts is that they have mining rights to repay the loans that we have. And trust you me, we are up to the neck in debt to China.
Yeah, I think the cartoon is really based on the colonial what Cecil John Rhodes did when they colonized the country they then called Rhodesia. There's the infamous Rad concession, and what the cartoonist here is saying, this is the new Rad concession, and we made it with the Chinese. And just for the benefit of the listeners there, what's written on it on this new Rad concession is it is hereby agreed, the whole village agrees to vacate the area. Of course, the whole village are being forced out. Their houses are being burnt, thrown out. And the whole area is to be under Chinese control for the purposes of mining for lithium and other minerals thereof. And then the villagers agree to be settled elsewhere. Help to be given in terms of transport and logistics. And then there's an area for the headman to sign, and then the minister representative, and then the date. And it is written at the bottom there, made in China. And the gentleman here is meant to be the Chinese president. And no doubt the other gentleman there, smiling from ear to ear, is one of the Chinese officials. And our headman is sitting there and he could hardly read. And the ordinary Zimbabweans are looking on in total dismay. This is the reality of Zimbabwe independence. The Chinese supplied the country with the weapons to fight to end colonial rule, knowing fully well that they will be the new colonizers. And if there is one country that has done most to keep Zanu PF in power these last 44 years, it is China. China has bankrolled Zanu PF's rigging machinery. They will see to it that Zimbabwe will never, ever have free, fair, and credible elections. That is the Chinese creed, because they don't want the regime to be ruled by a government that is accountable to the people. And as long as the Chinese are there, I honestly do not see any hope of Zimbabwe holding free, fair, and credible elections, and therefore having a competent and accountable government. This is one of the realities, the price that we have had to pay for the Chinese helping us in the fight for independence. I think this is really depressing. I can't see a way out of this one. I have to be honest.
So the biggest problem, like I said, is that China has invested a lot into getting these mining rights in Zimbabwe. They have given away a lot of loans. They've done a lot of things for us, such that they cannot just abandon their investment. So Zimbabwe is an investment, and they have to. I don't see them giving away, wanting democracy to prevail, and hence jeopardize their investment, because they lose away the surety that comes with operating under the Zanu PF regime. Because Zanu PF know that China has given them so much in terms of of money, in terms of resources to fund their looting, fund their rigging and all whatever they are doing. So I agree with you. It's going to be very difficult to find us getting out of this mess. And the worst part is we keep doing exactly what Zanu PF wants us to do, which is keep going at participating in these rigged elections, uh, believing that we can change a story that can be changed by using such tactics. So unfortunately, it's a big mess for Zimbabwe.
Well, for the record, actually, Ben, I would say that the truth of the matter is that Zimbabwe has repaid 100 times, if not 1,000 times, for the whatever China spent arming Zanu PF. And I agree, yes, they've funded the building of the new parliament building and the new airport and so forth. But I can tell you what they are looting from Zimbabwe in 1 year alone would pay off all those loans that they gave us. The truth of the matter is the country is being shortchanged. These minerals that they are mining, those are the collateral. When they give these loans to build parliament, they ask for collateral in terms of the right to go and explore and do the mining. Zanu PF is signing those agreements. And you find at the end of the day, the amount of wealth that the Chinese are getting and the amount of loan that the regime has been given, the latter is nothing compared to what you're giving up. The World Bank and the IMF have warned countries like Zimbabwe that you should not sell minerals that are in the ground. Because invariably, and it's very true in the case of Zimbabwe, you are selling them to somebody who knows that you're desperate for that money. You're not going to get it from anyone else. And therefore, then they can give you a raw deal and you'll accept it. So you find yourself in a situation where you're selling the minerals worth billions of dollars, and the loan you're getting is worth only 5% of the true wealth of that of the minerals you have sold. That is not a good deal. And the very fact that those agreements are never transparent can only mean that you're being shortchanged. Why is there no open competition, a transparent process? And in this particular case, the other point I've tried to emphasize there is that the Chinese are the ones who are bankrolling Zanu PF's rigging machinery. And therefore, then the Chinese know and can turn around to Zanu PF and saying, you owe us for all these other things that we're doing for you, which no other open and honest contractor would want to do for you. And therefore, then Zanu PF owes the Chinese for keeping them, Zanu PF, in power. And they are repaying it by giving away, selling the country's resources for a song. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. And now that the Chinese have dug in and they've been in the country, getting them out is not going to be easy. This is why I say to you, the hope of Zimbabwe ever holding free, fair, and credible elections is remote. Because the thing with the Chinese is they have got the money, the resources. Even Mugabe himself, when he fell out with the Chinese, he booted them out, I think it was in 2016, complaining about the Chinese were not giving him enough loans. A year later, Mugabe himself was booted out. And a few months after the November 2017 coup, the Chinese were back in Marange and Chiazwa, digging diamonds. The amount of wealth they are getting from those diamonds alone is unbelievable. And as many people who have been in Zimbabwe will tell you recently, the number of Chinese in Zimbabwe and what they are doing, nobody knows. Nobody can really say, how was this agreement done? It's all between Zanu PF and the Chinese. So nobody knows what the country is benefiting. There was no other competitor to say, okay, I want to bid to mine those minerals and I'll give you this in return for mining them. No, the Chinese and the government of Zanu PF made the agreement, whatever they agreed on. That is what is making the whole thing so difficult. And the more the richer they get, the more determined they'll be to stay in power. And so it's a vicious cycle, Benjamin.
It's what I find quite sad, and what is exactly happening is that when it comes to signing of these arrangements or agreements, I don't think that the Zimbabwean government has the power, the leverage to choose what conditions they would want. But what I find is it is actually China. It is actually China that has got control to say what they want in the terms. I mean, let's look at it during the past coup that happened in Zimbabwe, right? Chiwenga had to go to China to go and tell them. I would like to believe he went and told China to say, your investment is threatened, and with us we are going to protect it. And then China had to facilitate to see that this their investment is protected. And I do not know exactly what they brokered again for this deal to be done, but I am sure they got the wrong end of the deal again. So I think, yes, Zimbabwe, I think we are being shortchanged because of corruption. Because once you do deals underneath the table, you will always be shortchanged. And this is what we are finding right now. China will take steel, iron, and will take it as iron ore to China. Yet they could add value here, and then it will be more expensive. But no, they would not do that. They would rather want to take it cheap from within Zimbabwe and go and process it in China. So we are definitely getting the wrong side of the deal. We own the resources, but we are getting absolutely nothing out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Benjamin. My closing remark would be that I think this is one of the tragedies of Zimbabwe. We are finding ourselves in a situation where, in the fight to restore our freedom, basic human rights, and the right to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country, we are not only fighting Zanu PF. Zanu PF have become nothing more than the puppets. And the puppeteers, in this case, are the Chinese. So we are not fighting Zanu PF. we are fighting the puppeteers behind Zanu PF. And that fight is not going to be, is not an equal fight. And the more reason why, when we get the opportunity to change things, to force the regime to hold free, fair, and credible elections, we have to make the most of it. And in this particular case, we have again and again let ourselves down because the opposition sold out. When they had the opportunity to implement the reforms, they did not. When they had the opportunity to say, let's have free, fair, and credible elections, Chamisa himself was the one who was wittering about, I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, when he knew clearly that Zanu PF was going to rig these elections, and he had not plugged any holes at all. And that's landing us where we are. Some people have said that Triple C is nothing more than Zanu PF Team B. I think when you look at the performance of MDC and then later on Triple C, these last 23 years, there is credence in that claim that the opposition is not really the opposition at all. But at least most of them are Zanu PF operatives pretending to be opposition. Triple C, MDC, and Triple C have done a lot to keep Zanu PF in power this last 23 years. And Zanu PF being the puppets of the Chinese. We can also say then that the Chinese, the Chinese have got strings over the opposition as well. And they are pulling the strings there too, which makes it very difficult for the ordinary citizen, Zimbabwean citizen, to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. The fight is not going to be an even one. The fight is not going to be an easy one. We have got a regime, a superpower now heavily involved in Zimbabwe's political affairs. In the cartoon there, the Chinese are depicted wearing Mnangagwa's traditional multicolored scarf. He owns Mnangagwa, not that the Mnangagwa owns them. He owns, the Chinese own Mnangagwa and Zanu PF. And they are the ones pulling the string. That is the tragedy. Ronald, you'd like to give your closing remarks then?
Yes, I think you have done justice when it comes to the closing remarks. That's exactly what I would have said, that, you know, the battle is not easy because we have a superpower that has invested in this corrupt government because they have found easy pickings, especially when people are looting, hiding from each other, you know, the exact amounts of which deal is being done. So I don't see China wanting to lose, you know, a chunk of their investment, especially when we know that Zimbabwe is a mineral-rich country and it's easy pickings. So it's quite unfortunate. It has now gotten to an extent where the owners of the land, the true owners of the land, which are the people of Zimbabwe, are having to be moved, you know, and having their properties destroyed to keep a regime that now has become a thorn in their flesh. And until we realize, you know, and think for ourselves what exactly is going on, the origins of our problems, it will not stop there. I am sure they will still follow us as long as there's minerals underneath the earth. They will follow us even if they do change us today. What is to stop them from seeing another mineral tomorrow in the new resettled area and move you again? So it's just going to be a vicious cycle. We need to start questioning some of the decisions that are being made, both by the opposition, because they are the ones that we are saying are our hope, right? We have given them, say you are our only hope. We need to find out what they are doing when it comes to all these things that are happening. And Zanu PF needs to be questioned itself to say how much have you sold and how what are we getting from the rights that we are giving every single day. And we see the Chinese, the damage that they have done in just the past few years. Surely if we were to give them another 10 years, Zimbabwe will be a desert, holes all over, craters all over, with not even a single tree. So we really need to ask the right questions and just not follow some of the narratives that we are given by these politicians. And they're so corrupt at the end of the day. That's what I have to say, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much again, Benjamin, and to the listeners there, thank you very much for listening, and have a good night. Hopefully tomorrow we'll join again at 6 o'clock UK time. Thank you.